Just to let you know too, we're also taking donations. We do have to pay for the room, and we are going to pay Chief Kessler for coming up. He drove 3 hours, so we really appreciate him coming up here. So if you can do anything, we'd appreciate it. Chief Kessler is from Gilberton, Pennsylvania, which I'd never heard of it, 3 hours away. Okay, so he has put together a reserve force that could be called upon to help defend the city in the event of a foreign invasion, or more precisely, an invasion of the federal government to confiscate arms. And since he got started, I know his response has been overwhelming. And I know when they first got started, they said just in a week, the reserve force became nationwide, headquartered in Pennsylvania. As of February 16, 2013, Chief Kessler had 5 active chapters in Indiana, West Virginia, Texas, South Carolina, and Kentucky. Since then, 4 more chapters have come on board with contact information. New York, Florida, New Jersey, and Missouri all now have contact information for their respective states. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over, and if you'd all give them a welcome, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. It's truly an honor to be here tonight.
There's some seats.
I never thought I would see myself standing in front of a room full of people that I never met before or even know. How it all started was back in January. I came up with what was called, I have papers over there on the table actually, it was called the Second Amendment Preservation Resolution. At first we tried to pass that as an ordinance, and they didn't like the ordinance part of it. So we passed that as a resolution in Gilberton Borough. I was the first law enforcement officer in the nation to draft and get passed something to protect the Second Amendment. I think it's very important that everybody's armed. As you might know, a free nation is an armed nation is a free nation, and it's my true belief that everyone should have the right to keep and bear arms, no matter what you do in life or anything else. It's just horrific what's going on right now, and I heard Maryland is doing some really interesting things against you patriots here, which I find disturbing. If you want a copy of the resolution, you're more than welcome to take one with you, pass it around. Maybe you can get something like this going in your areas, in your counties, in your boroughs, in your cities, wherever it may be. This was passed in a borough. Basically what we're doing is we are nullifying any and all rules, regulations, acts, orders regarding firearms, accessories, or ammunitions that are in violation of the Second Amendment, along with Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution, that may or may not come down from the federal government. If the sitting president and his administration feels like they want to infringe on the Second Amendment, in Gilberton Borough, you're going to have the right to keep and bear arms regardless of what they say. We're telling them we're not going to recognize it. It's going to be null and void. The administration picks and chooses which laws they want to null and void, you know, as far as immigration laws and stuff like that, you know. So we're going to do the same thing in Gilberton Borough. They want to infringe on our Second Amendment, we're going to tell them too bad. We don't care what you have to say or what you pass. It's unconstitutional. If you read the Constitution, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that gives the power to anyone to regulate firearms or anything like that. That includes the ATF, which I'm not a big fan of either. I never had a problem buying a firearm in my entire life until recently, when I went to purchase a short barrel Class 3 weapon, and it takes 3 to 6 months to go through the ATF background check. And they put me on delayed status, so I had to actually get an attorney involved. And they said it was for a speeding ticket 27 years ago or 26 years ago, or somewhere around there. I don't even think I was old enough to drive back then, but you know, this is the kind of excuses that they're trying to use on people right now. I did get my application approved. It took me a while to get it approved. I had to fight. I actually had to go through and do a background check with the Pennsylvania State Police. It came back with nothing on it, and then I had to submit it to the ATF and say, well, I don't know where you're getting your records from, but here's what my attorney got and I got. And then they approved it. Mysteriously, they just stamped it and it came in the mail. Another thing is that everybody needs to do something, no matter what it is. All I did was pass this little piece of legislation in Gilberton Borough, and it went nationwide. There's so many towns, boroughs, cities, states even, that I sent this out to, and they've been passing the same similar legislation that was penned, that started in Gilberton Borough. And I'm the chief of police of about 870 some people, and that's it. We have a very small department. I don't have a very high crime rate. We don't have a lot of violence, a lot of drugs. We don't have any gun violence. You know, not that it can't happen, but you know, and sheriffs in Pennsylvania are a little bit different than sheriffs in Maryland. I don't know if sheriffs in Maryland have powers to arrest.
Full law enforcement powers of arresting.
Well, Pennsylvania, our sheriff doesn't have. They don't have powers to arrest in Pennsylvania, the sheriffs. Only if they see minor traffic citation, like a traffic violation. They have to actually witness it to make the arrest in Pennsylvania. And I see here that Delaware, I guess, actually has powers to arrest. That can go two ways. In my county where I'm from, the sheriff is not gun friendly. He's not constitutional friendly. He's a gun grabber. All right? He doesn't believe anybody should own guns unless you have a badge on your chest. And I don't believe that. I don't care who you are. I think you should have the right to keep and bear arms, period. You know, it could be a curse or it could be a blessing. Thankfully, you have a good sheriff here that's pro-Second Amendment. And we need more guys like him. This is why it's so important to get out and vote, because voting does make a difference no matter what you think. It may or may not. You know, these people that are in charge right now of our country, they are doing things that I've never seen before in my lifetime, that my father has never seen in his lifetime. He fought in Vietnam, shed his blood fighting for his country. My grandfather spent 2 years in a Nazi prison camp in World War II, fighting for our freedom so I can be here today speaking. And it's not where I envision my children to be right now in this bad situation. And you know, 15 going on 16 years in law enforcement, I never thought I'd have to stand up and say, you know, you're not going to take my firearms away from me. You're not going to take my freedom away from me. You're not going to spit in the face of my father or my grandfather or every other American that fought and died for your country. They just have no remorse. That's just my own personal opinion. It's like they have no remorse for the people that fought and died for our nation. You know? As far as the Constitutional Security Force, I started a auxiliary police force where people could sign up and volunteer their time as long as they're Pennsylvania Act 120 certified to be police officers. The response was overwhelming, I could say that. I was getting phone calls from Canada. People wanted to come down from Canada and join up. You name it, I got phone calls from almost every state in the union here. So I had to put the auxiliary police force on hold for a little bit until I can figure something else out, and that's when I came up with the Constitutional Security Force, where pretty much anybody could join, anybody can be a member of it. We're encouraging people to go out and own firearms, buy firearms. We're not only encouraging them, we're going to show you how to train with them. I want to show everybody how I train with firearms. And the way I train is a lot different than target shooting or bullseye shooting. It's tactical training. My thing is select fire weapons. I don't hunt. I don't go out with my shotguns. I don't even carry a shotgun. I carry an M16 or an M14. I train tactically with firearms. I don't train to go out and go hunting, which is, I mean, to all the hunters out here, you know, that's just my thing. And that's what I'm going to show everybody that becomes a member of my organization, how we fight, how I gun fight, how the police fight. You know, it's a lot different than you see on TV. You know, if you get shot, and I have been shot several times. I got shot in the leg with an AK-47, and I got shot through my wrist with a .45. I got attacked by what they call Latin Kings. I don't know if they have them down here, Sheriff. Well, they have them up my way, unfortunately. And they actually took my gun off me and shot me with it. So I learned a lesson, a very valuable lesson with that. I carry an ankle gun now. I didn't have one back then, but I learned a very valuable lesson. I think it's important that everybody knows how to gunfight. That's just my opinion. You know, it's easy to own a gun and to pull the trigger, but it's a whole different story when you have to protect yourself and protect your family, or protect your neighborhood, or protect your community, or wherever it may be, or your country, if it so comes to that. There's a lot of tactics that I would love to show everybody. You know, very, very good tactics, defensive tactics, all kinds of stuff. So owning a gun is the easy part. The hard part is learning how to use it and use it well. So with that, does anybody has any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Excuse me, someone afoot out there, I don't know, there's been so much news lately, but some congressperson, someone from Washington, I believe, that is out there to give the Secret Service power to disarm guys like you. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, I'm just saying, if somebody decides they want to circumvent federal law, and federal law says you can't have firearms, and you know, screw the Second Amendment of the Constitution, you guys aren't allowed to have weapons, and you say yes they can, how do you feel about that? I wish I had a name for you. Can somebody help me out here?
It was in Colorado, and Governor Hickenlooper is his name.
Okay, Hickenlooper, yeah.
It's in Colorado where he wants the Secret Service, because he's worried about a group of sheriffs in Colorado saying that we're not going to enforce.
Correct, yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
Federal gun laws that Obama wants. So there's groups of sheriffs that are organizing out there. So the Colorado is quite liberal. So they want to give the Secret Service the authority to come in there and arrest these sheriffs if it comes to that.
Yeah. Good luck, that's all I can say. There's not enough Secret Service agents in the country. I don't think that could handle that task. My thoughts on that are, you know, why is Obama feel the need to enact these Secret Service agents? And you know, they answer to him. You know, that's like his private police force, much like Nazi Germany with the SS. You know, and I'm far from extreme, but it just seems that there's stuff going on that shouldn't be going on. You know, if they want to empower these Secret Service agents to say, well, we trump you, it don't work that way. You know, the Constitution is the Constitution.
I just want to bring up, and this is closer to home, Delegate Dreyer, D-W-Y-E-R, is forming the Maryland Volunteer Militia, which follows the same thing.
I read about that.
Okay. I have sent him information about your organization. Rather than him go off on his own, preferably, the way that I look at it, and I talked to his chief of staff and she agreed, it's better to have an organization under the sheriff, which gives it legitimacy,
Absolutely.
rather than have it under someone, because let's face it, the militia name in itself is bad, is taken as the skinhead groups, etc., the far right fringe groups. So his office should be getting a hold of you.
Yeah, I actually reposted his information online. Somebody sent it to me. I read the article. I thought it was a great idea. Apparently, you have that in your state constitution.
Right.
Pennsylvania's constitution is a little bit different. They frown on the militias in Pennsylvania, so that's why there's a lot of unorganized militias, they call them, in Pennsylvania.
But that's under the federal code. You're allowed to have an unorganized militia.
Correct.
However, it works a lot better if it's under legitimate law enforcement.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree on that one.
Well, you have to wonder, if there's a gun grab going on, then the Second Amendment doesn't mean anything. Who would care about the constitutional right to have a militia? They wouldn't care about that either.
No.
I mean, we're heading to Lexington and Concord. If something happens, it's going to be
Well, hopefully it doesn't go that far. Hopefully there's enough people that say you will not and stand up. And
I don't trust the guy in Washington, I'm sorry.
Neither do I.
Call me old fashioned.
Well, I don't trust them either. There's a lot of people I don't trust in Washington, about 540 some of them, and I think there's, I don't trust, not many, I can tell you that. It's just a bad situation all around. That's why we need everybody to do something, no matter how big or small it is. Everybody has to do something, including your sheriff, no matter what. You know, I don't know what his powers are as far as down here in Maryland, as far as starting like a sheriff's brigade. That's what they started up in Pennsylvania, a sheriff's brigade. With Sheriff Eric Wheatneck from Butts County, who has signed on with Sheriff Mack as a constitutional sheriff. And there's not many in Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, the one in Schuylkill County, you know, like I said, he's a gun grabber. I'm the only chief of police on there, I think. I'm still the only chief of police on there right now to sign up. I did speak with a lot of law enforcement from across the country, and a lot of chiefs of police and sheriffs. Sheriffs are elected, where I'm not, I'm appointed. And when I sat down with my elected officials and said, you know, you have to abide by your oath of office, by the Constitution, when it comes to the Second Amendment, and not twist their arm, but, you know, say, hey, this needs to be done. We need to recognize the Second Amendment in Gilberton Borough. You know, this is a big thing here. You got to stand up for what everybody fought and died for. And they passed it unanimously. And after I sat down with them, I didn't know if I was going to have a job or not. So, but they did the right thing. I'm still in my job, where they can just get rid of me anytime they want. You know. Unlike the sheriff, where he would have to be voted out, I can just be fired, you know. So I put my head on a chopping block, and a lot of the chiefs around the country that I spoke to are worried about their jobs. I can tell you that right now. There's a lot of them that believe in the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms, but they're afraid to come out and say that publicly because of who they work for. You either work for a Republican. You have two types of police departments. I'm not sure with the sheriff, but as a police officer, you either have the Republican police department or you have a Democratic police department. There's no happy medium. One side wants you to do one thing, another side wants you to do another thing. If you agitate one side, then they come after you. If you agitate the other side, they come after you. You know, then it's just a mess all over. I'm lucky to have a decent a group of people that I work for. They're Democrats, they're Republicans, and they're independents. But they believe in their country, and they believe in the Constitution and the oath they've taken.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, I'm
okay,
not
just
enough.
speak.
And I think this runs hand in hand with infringement on our Second Amendment rights. I think everybody in here has experienced a problem with purchasing ammunition in recent months. Can you elaborate on why that's happening and who is causing this to happen?
Well, I saw
And how this runs against our Second Amendment? I mean,
Yeah,
one
I'm
is
having
a
a-
gun grab and one is an ammo grab.
Yeah, I deal with Century International Arms, the importers, direct. George Sampson, he's the law enforcement division guy, and they import containers ammunition, and I buy direct. I don't buy from gun shops or anything
Who is
like that.
this?
Century International Arms is who I deal with, and I'm having a very hard time getting ammunition. It took me about 6 months to get 5,200 rounds, and that's how long I had to wait for it.
We had the same problem.
Yeah, it's all over. I don't know why the shortage is, but I know our tax dollars are paying for a lot of ammunition. For what reasons, I don't know. I mean, I think it's up to 2 billion rounds now of hollow point ammunition at the Department of Homeland Security. I think Social Security Administration has
Hollow point, is that for target practice?
No.
I won't use hollow point for target. That's pretty expensive stuff. I mean, that's duty
Ball
ammo.
point.
You know, yeah, ball ammo is good target ammo, but I don't understand why your Social Security Department needs I think it was 174,000 rounds of hollow point ammunition. That's mind-boggling to me.
Department of Education has a SWAT team, so pay your college bills.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
Well,
they-
that's news to me, but I also heard that, I did a little research on that, that citizens, private citizens are buying about 50, I think it's 50 million rounds, I don't know if it's weekly or monthly. So that could be another thing there, you know, causing the shortage. I think the government started it, you know, with the scare tactics, and as soon as Obama came out and said he's gonna come after the guns, and then Biden came out, and all the rest of the cronies.
I'm on a gun board, and all over the country we get input from all over the country. There are no AR-15s hardly at all available. So everything's going off the shelf except maybe some old bolt action type stuff. So it basically appears to be, with the ammo as well, a panic mode after the re-election, because it was going on beforehand, but after the re-election, people went nuts. I've been on a bunch of websites and trying to buy 500 rounds of 223. It's almost impossible. Not only that, but it's went up by a factor of 4 in cost from when I bought it last.
Yeah, last time I checked, I can't remember the website's name. It was almost a little over $1 a round for 5.56 SS-109 steel penetrators. That's pretty high, you know, compared to what it was a couple of years back. It's just ridiculous for, I think it was $899 for 1,000 rounds. You can only buy 1,000 rounds if you're lucky, you know. There's lots of ammo on Gunbroker. If you want to pay, you're going to pay for it though, and it's going to be junk ammo. It's going to be Wolf. That's no good for the AR platform. It's really Model 1 sales out of Texas. I don't know how they're doing, but I bought a lot of stuff off them, and I built my own. I built a lot of my own weapons for my department. I donated back into my department. We don't have the funding like the bigger departments have or sheriff's departments have. So I donate part of my salary back into the department for weapons. I build my own for the police department. I built the select fire guns for my police department on a Form 1 through the ATF.
I have a question. The Citizens Reserve Force, can you tell us a little bit about that, and what power do the citizens actually have?
Well, citizens, it's basically going to be like a militia, but we're not calling them militia. You know, it's going to be the Citizens Reserve Force, and under the Constitution we can form a militia, as you know, and hopefully things don't get out of control or out of hand. But if it does, we can call upon them and
And
say,
they have to go through the training?
only if they want to. Only if they want to. Anybody could be like a supporting member. As you well know, I guess, what was it, 3% or 5% fought during the Revolutionary War. It wasn't much. If something should happen again like that, hopefully it doesn't. I'm not saying it is, or if it will, or if it won't. A lot of people ain't going to do nothing. A lot of people are just going to be like, well, so be it, you know, and they're going to watch their next TV program or whatever. But there's a lot of people out there that will stand up and say you will not. That's where the militia comes in, as far as that goes. And if they want to go through the training, so be it. If they just want to be contributors or financial sponsor or donate equipment or anything like that, that's just as good. That's, you know, they don't have to be boots on the ground.
Under the U.S. Code, the unorganized militia is age 17 to 47. Well, I'm not 47, so I'm a little older. So not 17 either. So do you have any limits on age?
No. No limits.
I'll be in Canada.
Fix coffee, Al.
Does the militia have an official function, and how do they operate?
Which, my security force?
Yes, is this the militia?
Well, it's not an actual militia. It's the Constitutional Security Force. That's the name of it. In Pennsylvania, militias are frowned upon, big time, so that's why we went with the Constitutional Security Force. Their function is to protect and defend the Constitution, and that's it.
Okay, so basically verbally they protect it, they're just not a bunch of people running around with guns kind of.
No, they're gonna be, no, that's why there's specific, if you become a member of the Constitutional Security Force and you wanna, be an active member, you go for the training that I go through.
Okay.
You go for the tactical firearms training, tactical combat training, combat medic training, all kinds of training, hand to hand, everything you can think of. We're gonna host it. We just teamed up with Fast Tactics out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're gonna be doing all the training across Pennsylvania. And there's another corporation down in Texas that's gonna be the southern part. We have 38 states on board right now with chapters in. Memberships, I don't know exactly how many members we have, and I don't feel comfortable disclosing that information right now.
At what cost to train an individual? Will it be self-funded, just handouts, however you can get money however you
Yeah.
can?
Yeah.
What do you
Yes.
figure it costs to train one person to go through tactical training?
They have to
Army
supply all
skill.
they have to supply their own gear. We'd be able to supply whatever we get. We have a company down in South Carolina willing to donate 1,200 sets of BDUs, tops, bottoms, boots, all different sizes. They would be given out for free, of course. We have another company in Florida that's donating magazines, AR-15 mags, AK-47 mags. We have another company out of Las Vegas that's going to be donating some firearms, some rifles, tactical rifles and stuff like that. I called Barrett. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a 50 off them, so I begged, but they won't give it up.
I'm just thinking in terms of several $1,000s to equip one person. That's if they bring their own weapon.
Yeah, it's going to be, the classes are going to range from $100 to $200, and that's going to be up to the trainer to decide. Fast Tactics in Pennsylvania, whatever part of the state or country they're in. Our guys up in Pennsylvania are going to travel all over the state training, because as you know, Pennsylvania's an open carry state. I can walk down the street with an AR-15 or a minigun or whatever I want. I can carry a handgun on my hip, and they can't say nothing to me about it, because it's in our Constitution. Not only is it in the federal Constitution, but it's in specifically states in Pennsylvania's Constitution, the right to keep and bear arms. Let me see here if I can see this pointer. The right to keep and bear arms of that of a free state or defense of themselves shall not be questioned. That's part of our Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. So we have a pretty strong Constitution when it comes to firearms, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to attack it,
Yeah. So did New York.
Yeah, New York has a very good, strong Constitution, but they tried to pass, I think it was a confiscation bill in New York.
New York City, they did.
Oh, they passed a confiscation bill?
This was some years ago in the 90s. Weapons that were allowed in the 1960s were approved. They outlawed. And you have to get a license in New York City for any, not in New York State, shotguns. You don't have to get a license for in most long guns. But yeah, New York City has already done it. California did it on one weapon. They said it was okay, and then they came back later and said either leave the state with it, or give it up. So confiscation has been done in the United States.
Did they pass the bill in Colorado where they had to register their high cap magazines or their standard 30-round magazines?
I don't know if that was included in that bill that was passed.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
You have to register your mags now in
You
Colorado?
have to register them, but you're only allowed to own, I think their limit in Colorado is 15 rounds.
How many people in here today are members of the NRA? Okay, pretty good. Not that I'm also a member of the NRA. When I drafted this resolution, I contacted James Bernowski from the NRA ILA, and I shot him a copy of it to his email. I didn't hear back from him for quite some time until after it was passed. And after it got passed, I finally heard back from him. I just wanted his intake on it, what he thought about the nullification process, and he said it wouldn't do any good. I'm here to tell you I proved him wrong. Because it's spread all over the country. All I have to do is Google something on, Second Amendment preservation ordinance or resolution, and you'll see it's nationwide. So, it made me think twice about the NRA. Not that they fight a different front, they fight the political battle, where we have to be the boots on the ground.
But we haven't been tested yet.
Exactly.
Okay, ATF and Department of Homeland Security with their new armored vehicles haven't come to, say, Cecil County and decided to take me out. Okay, and if there was a force, is that force going to show up at my house and stand between me and them? Because otherwise, I'm gone.
You're right, and that's where your sheriff comes into play. He's your chief law enforcement officer in your county. It's up to him. He's either going to stand with yous or he's going to stand with Obama and his guys. And I think from the way I see him laughing there, I believe he's going to stand with us.
So which way is it, Sheriff?
I'll let you know in a couple minutes.
Okay, he'll let us
It's going to be good news.
Okay.
I'm putting him on the spot here.
Well, we intended to.
You mentioned the NRA. I can see them shying away from that because they're very public relations minded.
Mhm.
But if you went to Larry Pratt and Governors of America,
Yeah, I'm good friends with Larry.
or the Oath Keepers, I think.
And Stewart, too.
Would be interesting.
Yeah, Larry was very interested in it, and Stewart, I was on several shows with Stewart already. I wasn't on any shows with Larry yet. I'm scheduled to be in Philadelphia on May 23rd, I believe it is, with Sheriff Mack at Stewart Roads, and then up in Lexington on the 19th of this, April 19th, I'll be up there also giving a speech with Stewart Roads and Sheriff Mack.
Another good group we have here in Maryland is MSI, Maryland Shall Issue. And they've been involved down in Annapolis through this whole thing since February 6th when it started. That's a good group that supports everything, and a lot of contact and communication.
How long has Maryland been a non-open carry state?
How old am I?
Yeah.
That long? Is that long?
I don't remember when you could ever do it. I'm 68, but that doesn't mean.
If you read the Second Amendment, there's nothing in the Second Amendment preventing anyone from owning a firearm. Nothing. I mean, the first thing they did was, if somebody did something against society or committed a crime, and they had to pay their debt to society, when they went to jail, the first thing they did was take their guns off them. And the first thing they did when the person paid their debt to society was they gave them their guns back. It wasn't too long ago. I forget when they passed the act, but if you commit a felony, that you can't own a gun anymore. There's a lot of good people out there that make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, including myself.
In Maryland, the Maryland State Police regulate our firearms in Maryland. They're the ones that make the decisions on whether or not carry, conceal a handgun on the streets.
Yeah,
And
I don't agree with
It's
that.
called good and substantial reason.
Right.
And there's only a couple criteria that you have to meet to be able to carry the handgun. But it's probably the toughest state in the country.
Yeah, it's taxation through legislation. That's what I call it. I don't agree with that. I think it's all a bunch of bull. What gives them the power to say you can and can't, what you can and can't have. If you want it, I believe you should be able to own it. And that's just the way it is. Our Bill of Rights in the Constitution was set up where it doesn't specifically state anything. It says, shall not be infringed, period.
You were talking about if you have a felony conviction.
Mhm.
That's not really totally correct. It's already been ruled, and it's going to the Supreme Court. If let's say you were given probation because you're a nice guy, but you could have been given a sentence over 2 years, you lose your guns.
See, I don't agree with that. I think if you paid your debt to society, and like I said, there's a lot of good people that make a lot of mistakes, bad choices in life. Doesn't mean that they haven't paid their debt to society. Once they pay their debt to society, you know, they also are entitled to have a way to protect themselves. And if that's a firearm, then so be it. There's nothing in the Constitution that says just because you spend a year in jail or you get slapped on the wrist and you have to do a year probation that you cannot own a firearm. That's just that. I mean, if you read the Constitution, that's just the way it is. That's not my wording. That's the.
I'd like to interject something in here because I've been through the court system, federal court system. And there's what's known as jurisdiction. The question is, who has the jurisdiction to regulate the firearms? Well, the Constitution says the government doesn't have jurisdiction.
Correct.
Pennsylvania, where I lived for 45 years, said it can't be questioned. However, in 1934, the federal government passed the Federal Firearms Act.
That's not constitutional.
It is, but you lost your jurisdiction then. You went from a right to a privilege. And so now all we do is argue about what privileges the government will allow us to have. The question should be repealing the very first infringement.
Well, I agree.
I spoke to the district attorney of Philadelphia, Lynn Abraham. She's gone now, but she was there about 20 years.
Yeah, I had him run the current DA down there. I had him run out of the building in my last speech.
I don't know what that DA is like.
He's no good.
But when I talked to her, I made her get out her Pennsylvania Constitution. And she read that section. She didn't know anything about it. I had to tell her where to look for it. And she said, well, that was for when the Indians were killing us. That doesn't count now. You know, Philadelphia always considers itself separate from the rest of the state. But we also need to know what the district attorneys are thinking, because they have a lot of power. And we shifted the jurisdiction over to the government in 1934. So all we're doing is getting privileges and finding out which ones we have and which ones we don't.
But the Miller decision was on automatic weapons,
That's
not
right.
not semi-automatic or
What was
handguns.
that? I think it was on a
Yeah, sawed-off
short-barrel
shotguns.
shotgun.
You
Yeah.
shifted jurisdiction. That doesn't mean anything. You
Yeah.
shifted jurisdiction.
Well,
You don't have that right.
McDonnell and Hiller had something to say about that.
Yeah, the government can't regulate any arms. You know, why they get away with it is because we let them get away with it.
That's true.
You know, sheeples, I like to call them. You know, there's so many of them out there that just want to get up in the morning and do their thing and come home at night. They don't care about anything else.
Really,
Go ahead. I'm gonna give it to the
if
sheriff.
you study the history of gun laws in America, starting in colonial times when we were still under British rule, right up through the Civil War and beyond, all these laws were racist laws because every one of them was about keeping a slave from having a gun.
Correct.
There was legislation that said a slave could have a gun and go out and hunt if he carried a note from his master. And if you look at the history of gun laws, that's what they were all about. You know, you get up past the Civil War and you get up to the gangster era, the National Firearms Act 1934, which outlawed machine guns. And, you know, we had Babyface Nelson and all that stuff. So, you know, Congress decided, well, we're going to do something about that. And that's probably about the first of it where they were going after somebody other than a slave or a former slave.
Yeah,
or
they've been working on it for a
racist
while.
gun legislation of some type. So it's very interesting to study the Stephen Holbrook wrote a whole book about the history of gun laws in America, going back to Jamestown, and it's very interesting.
I can tell you one thing: if you don't stand up and do something, they will take your. They're going to take your firearms. They're going to take your semi-automatic rifle. Then they're going to come after your semi-automatic pistol. Then you're going to come after your revolvers. Then you're going to come after your shotguns, your bolt action, your single shots, your 22s, and the air guns. You know? And muzzle loaders. They're going to come after everything that spits a bullet out of it, no matter if it's a pellet or not.
How often do you do your training? And do you have a website? Could you leave your website
Yeah, I have some cards.
information so-
I'll leave some cards on the table. People
Yeah.
can check it out.
You get by, Sheriff?
I have a question. You have to be in Pennsylvania though I mean, you're 3 hours away, so
Yeah.
how
We don't have a chapter here in Maryland yet. We're still trying to work out the logistics on that. As far as the training wise goes with the laws down here, I'm not sure if you guys. Yeah, I'm not sure who can show up and what kind of weapons they can show up with.
Do you want to stay and just have a seat, or you?
Yeah, I'm gonna sit.
Okay, I know you have a long drive, but, okay.
Good evening. I think I know most of you here, but the ones that don't know me, I'm Sheriff Barry Janney of the Cecil County Sheriff's Office. The sheriff in Cecil County is the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the county. In the state of Maryland, we have 24 sheriffs, one for every county and to include Baltimore City. I'm here to tell you that I totally support the Second Amendment. I've been a police officer since 1979. I swore to the oath of office that I would protect the Constitution of the United States. The last time I looked, the Second Amendment was a part of that. Speaking on behalf of the entire Maryland Sheriff's Association, been in Annapolis, testified, supported. I have a citation that was just brought to me the other day. I'll mention his name, Don Dreyer, delegate from Anne Arundel County.
Dreyer, DWY.
DWY. Sent me a citation thanking me for my support of the Second Amendment. I can tell you, as long as I'm sheriff here in Cecil County, I'm not going to be coming to your house. I'm not going to be coming after your guns. My father was really taken back by this. I see Randy Johnson here. My family are hunters. I'm not. I never shot a gun before in my life until I went into Maryland State Police Academy back in 1979. I do own some handguns. I do own a couple shotguns, but I'm not an avid hunter. My brothers are, my family is, my friends are, but I'm here to support the Second Amendment, and I'll take on any questions. I think it's very important that we're able to protect our homes, our families. Everybody in my family has been trained on how to use a handgun. It's very important that they are. A lot of times I'm away from my home, especially when I was full-time law enforcement in Maryland State Police. I worked different shifts. I worked all over the state. I wanted to know my family was protected or had a chance if somebody came into my home.
Sheriff,
Yes.
will you set up a chapter of the Constitutional Security Force in Cecil County?
I would look into that. Yes.
I know that you said that you would never come to my home and take my firearms, and I appreciate that. What if the ATF, what if a federal agency came into Cecil County and decided they were going to take our arms? What position would you take, and how would you?
We will not support them, okay, as far as the sheriff's office. As you know, in Cecil County, we also have municipalities. You have your local police departments, Elkton, Rising Sun, Perryville. We provide the security down at in Port Deposit. That's going to be up to each and every one of those police chiefs. And just like the chief was talking about, those chiefs are going to have to do what their council, their mayors, or they're going to be looking for another job. And we would certainly hope that they would be on board with the rest of us.
What would you do to stop the ATF? Or
There's nothing really I can do to stop it. They have jurisdiction, but they're not going to get any assistance from us. And what I would do if I were you is hide them. Everybody's had guns that have been handed down from family members, okay? And I'm not turning over weapons that were handed down from grandfathers or whatever. It's not going to happen. Yes?
Yeah, my question was along the same lines. That what if they showed up and they didn't have any kind of documentation or any legal precedent for doing that? And you were called, would you be to stand in between that if they didn't have the paperwork to do that?
Absolutely. We'd have to go through the Attorney General's office to look into that. It's a good question. Yes?
My son-in-law is a Baltimore County detective, and his whole unit has come to the conclusion that if they were ever given the order to confiscate any gun, their badges will be on the table, or their paperwork for retirement or whatever would take place exactly then. So there's a lot of law enforcement officers out there that view this the same as you do and the chief from Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. I would certainly hope my officers don't put their badges on the table, but I certainly wouldn't expect them to help, and they'll be told not to. Yes?
Under what circumstances can a person carry? You had mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, they call them extenuating circumstances. They call them good substantial reasoning, and attorneys are all over this, if you've seen in the papers. For example, if your life has been threatened and there's a police report and the subject is still out there, you can apply for a handgun permit. Each scenario is different. Each one of them is weighed differently. I do know people that have come to me and said, listen, I've had threats on my life. I said, do you have a police report? Have your police report that you've had threats, that you've been assaulted. And then the processing. The thing about it is with the Maryland State Police, whatever they say goes. And you lose your application fee, you lose everything. Another reason, if you're a business owner, you carry large sums of money, deposits, you're making a lot of deposits, they're going to require you to show them proof that you are depositing money on a regular basis in banks or whatever under those circumstances, but then they put a restriction on those, and that makes it even tougher. And that's where really get in trouble big time, because they'll limit the hours on them. And we've stopped people that have made bank deposits, but then they left and they went to the pub and went somewhere else, and we stop them, and 1 o'clock in the morning, we pull them over. That permit's no good, no good. So, yes.
Well, I found out when I talked to the high-level state officials that the 3 letters, at the time there was only 1, but the 3 letters that I received threatening my life was insufficient because there was no assault on me. It was just a written threat. So I would say in Maryland, a written threat or even a verbal threat with witnesses does nothing, based on my experience with the top official that made the decisions on that.
Well, that runs right in line. Mike Smeagol was looking to put in a bill a few years ago, and I told him to put in a bill that if you walked into a bank and you said, I have a gun, a note, that should be the same penalty as if that person points that gun at you. And that was passed unanimously. And in regards to that, you're going to have to build your case with the Maryland State Police why you need to carry a weapon. And like I just said, it's probably one of the toughest states in the country. Yes, sir.
I know in some places a reproduction
Might be able to help you out.
antique firearm,
Good friends lately.
muzzleloader, is not in the same class as a modern firearm. Is that the case in Maryland?
That I'm not sure of. Can anybody answer that question? I'm not sure.
Yeah, a muzzle loader is not, it's unregulated completely. You can buy that at Walmart, you're walking off the shelf.
So you could open carry a muzzle-loading pistol and not be in jeopardy.
Doug Gansler, the Attorney General, wrote an opinion. He said, in the Willard case, he says, nobody in Maryland needs a handgun permit because it's legal to walk around with an unregulated rifle or shotgun. Now, if I walk down Route 40 with a shotgun unloaded, I'm going to be pulled over by somebody and probably get in a whole heap of trouble. But Doug Gansler is on record saying you don't need a handgun because it's legal to walk around, unloaded. It's legal to walk around with an unloaded, unregulated, a typical, 870 Remington, 500 Mossberg, or 22 rifle. That's legal. He says that. But not legal.
Now, in regards to the shotgun, nothing on Sutton, but no relation whatsoever, but the Suttons that were going around hitting all the convenience stores. When you're talking about a shotgun, the one at Royal Farms at down around Clora on 276 there, a guy walked in with a shotgun, stood in line, and not one person said anything to him. That's God's honest truth.
In 1964, my cousins took 22 rifles on the school bus to school.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I support the Second Amendment. I'll be behind you all the way. Thank you very much.
Mr. Tillman's going to do an update on where we're at. And I just want to mention something, and maybe he can correct me if I'm wrong. There is a website that you can get on and find out the status of all the bills. Except I've found out they haven't updated it in a month, especially on SB 281. So I guess they don't want us to know what the status is.
Hi, my name's Tillman Mason. I'm a retired state trooper and live here in Northeast. I've been kind of following this thing since I got up and answered my looked at my email on January 26th and found out that all this stuff was going on. Today, the House passed the firearms bill, and is Chris Zoskis? Ziakis. Okay, I got an email from him tonight just before I came in here. The bill that passed the House today is going to the Senate tomorrow morning. Now, if you go to the Cecil County Republican website, and most of you are probably probably have an email in your box right now from them, there's a list of about 12 to 16 Democratic senators that we need to get up tomorrow morning, and we need to start calling their offices and asking them to vote against this bill on the Senate floor tomorrow. If this bill passes the Senate tomorrow, it's going to be going to the governor's desk. And then we're into the next step, which I don't really know what it is.
Petitioning.
Is that the next step?
Petitioning for the referendum.
Okay.
Approximately 19,000 signatures by May 31st, and then a total of 55,000 by the end of June. That will hold off, it's like a stay on it, until the election with the referendum in November of 2014. So if we're going to have this organization to protect us from the bill, that gives us a year and a half to get organized.
So what you're saying is if we organize to petition, we can actually put a stay on the bill?
Yes.
Until then, because it's supposed to take effect on October 1st of
No.
2013.
So stay is put on it if we meet the criteria, okay, for the
Okay.
number of legitimate signatures of people registered to vote. And we'll be starting that as soon as the everything is set up. And Delegate Parrott is the one who's organizing this. One of the problems is you need to get on petition Maryland, I think, or Maryland Petitions. I think it's Maryland Petitions. We don't have a national organization to support us like we did the last time. So I've suggested they go to the NRA, but there is no national organization that's going to help organize this, buy the paper, all this sort of stuff, print the petitions and all that. We do that on our own in terms of, putting out tables and all that. But we need the petitions, we need the legal help, etc. And there is no money right now, so he needs contributions if we're going to stop this.
Okay, well then, that's what we need to do.
But there is legislation to have that signature count raised from 50 up to 100.
Right, but also I testified at that when there's also other things. You're going to have to go through training on the internet. If you're doing petitions, you got to initial everybody's signature, that sort of stuff. But if that, and I don't know if, I can't get on the website, doesn't tell me anything. But if that passes, which it probably will, we can do the same thing. That'd be another petition. We're going to end up with 10 petitions, I think, sitting on a table wherever we're going to be. But anyway, that's another one that we need to stop so that they don't. This is a constitutional petition, okay, that we can do it, but they're going to, it's sort of like the Second Amendment. They pick and choose what the rules are.
Yes. While I was I went to the day before yesterday, I went to the Maryland General Assembly website. You're right, it's not updated every day, but I was able to get some information on it. But something I wanted to bring to your attention tonight, because you may or may not hear about this session because there's only 8 days left in the session. However, you probably want to remember this number, 1277. It's already been submitted on the House floor. It says it's supposed to have been heard in committee, but I wasn't able to find. The House hearing was supposed to be on the 8th of March at 1 p.m., but I never heard anything about it. Couldn't find anything about it. But what it is a 50% tax on all ammunition. Okay. Now, folks, I'm not a revolutionary or anything, but I'm here to tell you that there is an ideological movement in this country right now, and particularly in this state, okay, to disarm law-abiding citizens. And if they can't get it done one way, they're gonna try to do it another way. So you're gonna have to be prepared when things like this come up to be on the phone and on the email, contacting your representatives. We're probably really lucky here in Cecil County because our representatives tend to actually agree with the way most of the people in the county feel. But you're gonna have to get out there and contact all the Democratic representatives from the metropolitan counties that have more numbers in the House than we do.
Yes, sir. As far as contacting the other ones that are not in your district, I mean, you can tell them why you don't support it, but I'm not so sure what kind of weight that, you know, if it can count it, or I mean, you still want looking for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. I talked to one really nice lady from a Democratic senator's office when this whole bill was first going through the Senate, and she was explaining to me how many thousands of emails and thousands of phone calls that they were having to field every day. And believe me, when these ladies in this office have picked up that phone for the 300th time that day, when the senator walks in the door at the end of the session, he's going to hear about it. So, you know, it does have some effect. Now, whether it's going to have enough effect to change his mind or not, I don't know. I do know that when we were working on the Senate bill, there was at least one Democratic senator that changed his vote because of the lobbying that the people in Maryland did. So that's just one more vote. Yes?
I was in Annapolis this last Friday when they had the joint committee meeting. And Mike Schmiegel, I saw him make the amendment for the good. It was a good amendment. And Valerio, the chairman, stopped the vote, and some people come from out of the back room, and they took the delegates in the back room, they come back out, and the votes were changed. Mike Schmiegel will tell you. You're up against a lot here. These people's minds are made up. February 6th, when it started, there were 4,000 people in Annapolis. They said, people down there said they've never seen anything that big. Probably over half of them signed up to testify in opposition to the bill. They stopped it at 8 o'clock. When it went to the House, Valerio said that we'll outlast them, that we'll go as long as it takes. They testified down there until 3:45 a.m. Saturday morning. There were 1,374 people signed up to testify opposing the bill. There were 32 people in favor of the bill down there.
Yeah, I read that.
Didn't change anything, though.
Excuse me, I have very important information, okay? The bill did pass tonight.
Yes, it did.
It is not going to the floor. That was the floor. That's what I'm getting right off the empty shooters now. Also, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and we got real issues going on. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. I think we should still pound them a little bit, but that's the situation. I live in Baltimore County. I just found out this. I came out over here anyway, and I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't want to break anything up. I was coming here for just to sort of meet and greet. But basically, that's the situation as of now. I was one of the guys testifying down there. We kept pounding on him and pounding on him. We now start talking about, next steps, and one of the next steps is going to be a lawsuit as well.
Which floor?
I'm sorry?
Which floor did it pass?
The Senate. What they did, they took the House bill as amended, and they pushed it out of committee to the floor. It took a floor vote tonight. There was an attempted filibuster. What I'm getting off empty shooters right now is that it has passed on that floor. Now, that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm going to go with.
Well, I think you have the latest information, because the latest information I was able to get today before I came here was from the Cecil County Republicans Party.
Right.
But I kind of suspected that something like that would happen. In fact, I have said it to certain people before, who shall remain unnamed. But that's what we're looking at, folks. I mean, we have a set of people who have a certain set of ideology they're working to support. And also, and I don't think I'm telling any secrets here, when the President of the Senate wants a bill passed, he calls the caucus into the room and says, okay, this is the way it's going to go. Now, you can either vote for my bill or you can vote against it. But if you vote against it, that little project that you wanted funding for probably isn't going to see the floor this session. And that's just the reality of life in Annapolis. That's the way it is. So now you know what we're up against. So we have to get organized, and we have to stay organized, and we have to be consistent to see this through. This is going to be a long fight. This legislation is passed in the face of DC versus Heller, a Supreme Court decision which clearly states that a municipality or a government cannot tell a citizen what kind of firearm they can legally own, nor what caliber or how many rounds it holds or anything else. That's right. I read the finding from the Supreme Court. It's very clear. The law that just passed and that the governor will sign into law probably tomorrow is absolutely against that. However, that being said, until it reaches a higher court and is overruled, it will stand as law.
Yep.
So that's just the gamble that they're willing to take. In the meantime, they can go ahead and restrict our rights by that law and enforce that law to their will until it's overturned. As far as ammunition is concerned, I've been doing a lot of searching since January 26th for ammunition, and I'll try to get on the website tomorrow if I can remember what my password is. And I've been doing a lot of searching on Google, and I have a whole bunch of good places to get ammunition. It's not cheap. It depends on what you want. I don't use 5.56, so I don't know anything about that. But as far as 45 long Colt, 40 caliber, 45, it's out there, it's readily available, but it's not cheap anymore like it used to be. But I'll try to get on the website tomorrow and put down the names of the websites I have, because I have like 20 of them. And I check them like weekly, because I'm always looking for more ammo. So.
22.3 I bought a year and a half ago for $129 for 500. It was $499 when I looked last week.
Yeah, I just bought some, and it was like I had to pay like 39 cents a round, but yeah. Hey, it took me a while to find it. Believe me, I didn't find that in my first search.
I've seen a few gun shows up in Pennsylvania. There seems to be a pretty good bit of 45, 49 millimeter.
Yeah, there is.
And it wasn't terribly bad.
No, I got 40 caliber reloads and 45 long Colt reloads very reasonably.
223 and 7.62 is extremely difficult to find.
It was up there.
Yeah.
I think because Pennsylvania isn't facing the same laws, there's not as big a scare up there.
TopAmmunitionSites.com will list probably
Yeah,
50 sites
there's
on
several of them
that
out
you can
there.
shop.
Believe me, if you Google
TopAmmunitionSites.com.
if you Google whatever caliber you want, bulk ammo, it'll flop right up there, and you just go from site to site to site. You see what their prices are, and you compare and contrast, and see who has it in stock and who doesn't. A lot of stuff is not in stock, but it is coming slowly back onto the market. Some of it's going to be here in April.
Does that bill still contain you can't buy over the internet ammo?
I did not see that in the bill. I don't think that bill made it through the session this year. Okay.
That's my understanding as well.
Okay.
Also, the ammo tax bill seems to have died. The best information on this is MSI.
Can you speak up?
Sorry. My understanding is that the ammo tax bill didn't make it, nothing made it on ammunition. There was some watering down of the penalties to register. Existing guns don't need to be registered if you bought them through the regulated process. They haven't figured out what to do with guns that will be regulated yet. The best information that I know of is on MSI. They're going to be doing a digest of that.
Good, thank you, I'll go there.
Prior to 1994, if you have a weapon, it's not registered in Maryland, because registering in Maryland is done through the state police every time you buy an quote-unquote assault rifle or a pistol. So if you have something, so if you're going to bury it, split them up, because they know the stuff you've got since 1994. They don't know the stuff you've got before then.
Right.
Barracks can be hard to get to when you need it.
Right. Just to change the subject, I don't know how many people are tracking this, but the other thing that passed the House and the Senate this week is the revised gasoline tax bill.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people that are familiar with it, but basically what it boils down to, I just read the bill the other day. We're paying 23.5 cents per gallon flat tax on a gallon of gasoline right now. When the bill was initially proposed, it was supposed to be rolled back to 18 cents per gallon flat tax plus a 2% per gallon sales tax on top of that. The latest version of the bill that I read day before yesterday, you're still paying 23.5 cents a gallon flat tax, plus you're going to be paying 4% per gallon sales tax.
And it's rated to go with inflation.
And it's indexed, yes, the flat tax is indexed to CPI. So the flat tax will be going up also. So this is probably, I mean, this is probably something that's going to have a more immediate effect on all of us than anything else. My first question was, I'm going to have to find a lawyer somewhere to answer it. If I'm paying 4% per gallon tax on my fuel, am I paying 4% per gallon tax on the tax that's already on the fuel?
Sure.
Same with the IRS on your Social Security that you pay every month. You pay at the end of the year, that's part of the tax, your gross.
Great. Okay, I don't have anything else.
Any other good news for us?
I'm just,
Yeah, the BATF is out in the front waiting for us.
the good news, that's me.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have any more good news.
Uh-oh,
And please don't shoot the messenger.
we're not allowed to carry.
No. On Monday afternoon, Delegate Jay Jacobs called me from Kent County. And he was concerned because Senate Bill 619, it's a Senate bill. There was never a bill in the House, never a bill in the House. It was just in the Senate. And it's called Wildlife Management and Sustainability
Oh, yeah,
Act.
hunters.
And basically what it's doing is increasing hunters' license fees 50%. Across the board, 50% license increase, just for anybody that's a hunter in Maryland license. In addition, and I don't know what Al's going to do about this because he's going to have trouble. In addition to increasing the fees, let me just get the wording on this. Basically, you have to have a competency test. You have to have a certificate of competency in firearms. Now, they will exclude people that had a license. You had to have the license before 1978. You had to have your license, not born in 78, but it had the license in 78. Everybody else is going to have to get a competency certificate.
Is that an in-state license or an out-of-state license?
If you hunt in Maryland.
No, so it doesn't do any good if you've hunted all over the world.
No. If you hunt in Maryland, you have to have a Maryland
Is there going to be
license.
an application fee for this competency test?
Probably. Bottom line is, your right to own guns and use them is under assault. And I have to tell you that the best thing you can do is have to stay active, because you're going to have to get in this petition drive. Now, I have to tell you that there's been petition drives in the past and they've all failed. But I have to tell you, in this room, this is probably one of the largest attendance that I've seen for the Patriots for a while. So it's pretty obvious that you guys are pretty emotional about your guns, and that's a good thing.
But you can't just leave here and bitch about it. You gotta do something about it, and that means you gotta not only sign the petition, but you better have one and pass it on to everybody that you know that has any interest in owning guns. It's gonna take the whole community of gun owners to get this petition on the ballot, and it's gonna take everybody and his brother and his uncle and others to vote on it. Because if you don't, if you're waiting for somebody else to help you out, it's not gonna happen, because in Maryland, they're not gun friendly, and it's just not gonna change unless you guys work it hard.